It's the SDG Podcast. Before we get started, you can check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com/podcast or find us on all the social medias, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Solution Design Group. Welcome, everybody. Today we got Peter Lawrence with us.
Hi there.
And Bennett Verhey was nice enough to step in last minute.
Hello.
And we got Eric Schneider, who thought up our topic today. Thanks for joining us, Eric.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So once in a while, the powers that be hand down legislation and rules and things like that create problems for the rest of us. Eric, you had mentioned some kind of a safety feature for a whirling blade of death. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, because one of my main hobbies is as a woodworker, and it's something I think about a lot because although I'm not going to put myself forward as an expert in product safety, I do have personal experience because I lost part of one of my fingers in an accident that, although I'm lucky that it wasn't as bad as it could have been, it still was like a year of my life I can't get back in recovering from that.
How high can you count now?
9.9, as far as I go. As far as I go. It doesn't. Yeah, the injury doesn't play well on an audio podcast, but yeah, I lost a portion of the end of one of my thumbs, and fortunately, it's not my non-dominant hand, so that helps. But
all right, let's see it.
Oh yeah, well, it's hard to see. It might be hard to see. It's easier to see in person, but there's a chunk horrible. Missing. Horror, but it healed up pretty good in the long run. It was a lot of hamburger up to a point. So it was not my proudest moment, I'll say. But it does raise questions of, because you could go down to your local big box store and buy power tools today that are incredibly dangerous if used incorrectly. And to what degree should the government get involved with, those specific consumer products, the ones sold for, the home gamer, I'll say, versus, like work safe, because there's obviously a difference when you're talking about like work safety, then to a degree, employees are often subjected to the tools that they're given, right? Like the area they work in, the tools that they're using are often furnished, and so it can be hard to ensure your own safety when you're being handed something versus like I could at least do my own research and buy something and learn it and when I'm on my own. But consumers don't I'm sure everybody in the room here has bought a power tool in their life and has just thumbed through the manual to figure out how to turn it on and probably didn't read much more than that.
I'm not sure I got that far.
Yeah. I think I might have thrown that away. That paper that was with it, and I just went for it.
Yeah, usually, if it's something big where you got to put it together, I'll read that portion, and then that's good enough for me. But again, based on my personal experience, it turns out it's important to understand what the don'ts are sometimes. But kind of leading to the thing that I've been thinking about more recently is something that happened in the past is Sears. And not exclusive to Sears, but kind of famously in the story of this is like they sold radial arm saws from the 50s on into the 90s, I think, and they were, especially early on, like the early designs had absolutely no guards on them, no safety features whatsoever, and just the kind of overall design of a radial arm saw is pretty flawed. And for those listening who may not know what a radial arm saw is, it's like a circular saw, like it's something for cutting wood, long pieces of wood down to length, but you do it by it's mounted on an arm where you reach forward and pull it toward yourself, and you're pulling it across the piece of wood from like an overhead mount. So the wood is underneath, it's mounted to a track on top, and you pull it toward yourself.
My dad has had his Sears radial arm saw for 40 years, and it's just so freaking loud. That's what I remember about it. I think it's why I can't hear well.
Well, like hearing safety is a whole different thing we we could talk about later on too, because I've had to learn my lesson the hard way on that too. But the radial. Oh, go ahead.
I can't even imagine how you would put a guard on that thing.
Yeah, because like on like kind of later in this is like what replaces the radial arm saw is a chop saw, and those do have full guards, right, and are much safer, but they kind of play into the dynamic of how they cut and to like move the guard out of the way. But yeah, it would be difficult because the motion is completely linear. It'd have to be something pretty clever. But the big problem ultimately with radial arm saws is that the blade is turning in a way that pushes the wood back away from you against whatever your backstop is to hold it in place. But the motion that you're making where you're pulling it toward yourself is the same direction that the tool would want to run away in. And so when while you're pulling it, if it caught on the wood, like if it was going to kick the wood out, it's going to lunge toward you, and that's the direction you're already pulling. So it's really hard to work against that. Whereas anyone who's used like a table saw, by contrast, you're pushing the wood through the saw. Same with a router table, you're pushing it through the cut, and so you have much more control because you're working against the direction of the cutting. And so radial arm saws work the opposite way. So it's very easy. Plus, just in general, like a lot of tools, it's really easy to lay your hand on there in a way where your thumb sticks out and you just run right over your own thumb. But ultimately, the Consumer Product Safety Commission stepped in, and there'd been so many lawsuits, so many complaints, we're talking about like tens of thousands of like decapitation injuries, right? Like people losing fingers and stuff like every year from these tools. And it was kind of an enough is enough situation. And Sears kind of made good on it, where the way that they set up the recall for them is they stopped selling them completely. They kind of owned the issue. And then they set up a program where if you could prove that you disabled the radial arm saw permanently, because their fear was they didn't want these things to just, like the one that Kyle, your dad has. What they're afraid of is your dad dies, you gotta do something with all of his stuff, and you're just going to throw it in a garage sale and sell it to someone else who will use it for another 40 years and so on. So have these things just kind of circulating out there. So they had people disable them. If you could prove it, then they would give you $100. And then even now, after because they were sold through Sears, they were made by Emerson, and Sears is obviously long gone now. But even after post Sears, I think Emerson did it for a while, and now somebody else is doing it, where they've kind of kept that recall alive. Where it used to be $100, it's gone down to $50 now, but the program is still functional, right? So you could still, if you find one in the wild, you can still get $50 for it by destroying it.
So the legislation now with the table saws, I saw a dude take a hot dog and hit it with a saw blade, and it stopped the blade.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And so that's the more the current present day version of this is they're on the cusp of not a recall in the same way as the radial arm saw, but they're trying to decide if table saws present a similar level of concern for consumers, where they need to regulate the safety of them. And so Kyle, what you're talking about is I was trying to look up what they would generically call it, because right now it's a patented design, so everyone just calls it a saw stop because that's what it is. It's the only company that can sell it. But if you try to make a generic market term, the term that's used is a flesh detecting safety brake. And so, like you said, the way it's designed is when some part of your body makes contact with the blade, it can detect it because your body is like conductive to a very specific degree. It can detect that the fact that your skin is conductive, and instantly activates a safety brake, where it has a large piece of, like a large block of aluminum mounted on a spring, and it releases that aluminum, and it rams it in. The spring rams it into the saw blade and stops it immediately.
Right.
You lose the saw blade, but you keep your finger.
Yeah. And it's impressive because like the legislation for this, the metric that they were going to put on it to, like, because other companies were going to put out competing designs ultimately if this became legislation, and so they have to have a performance benchmark. And so their benchmark is if your hand was moving 1 meter per second, which is extremely fast, right? then it should only cut your finger down to a depth of 3.5 millimeters, which is extremely shallow. So
yeah.
I mean, that's accidentally brushing the saw, right? That's basically what that is you accidentally brush against the blade that's spinning and you just didn't notice it and hit it, right? And that would knock it down and take it out.
Yep.
But I mean, I have a radial arm saw. I have access to a radial arm saw. It's not in my name. And I have 2 table saws. One that the guard is on, and one that I don't think that the guard exists on the other one, or it's been removed and disappeared a long time ago. So, I mean, and then I'm watching videos of woodworkers doing crazy things, and all the kickback videos on the internet are amazing and look so painful and everything. And that's one of the things that the guard stops is kickback, right? Where you're talking about the table saw directing the wood back toward the operator, and it's just a real simple spring-loaded thing that jams down and keeps the kickback from coming. And those are super inconvenient when you're trying to cut wood.
Now, Bennett, you've been like working on your house for like a couple of years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you have a chop saw because I saw you use it.
Yep.
No safety glasses, was doing the no peek, wasn't even looking. Yeah, I thought he was going to cut his whole arm off. Not kidding.
No. I just got a table saw, a brand new one. It's for Father's Day. My family bought it for me,
nice.
And it's a traveling one. You could just pick up. My kids can deploy it, so it sits up on wheels. It's 85 pounds total. It's on like a wheelie cart that's built into it. I had to put it together, so I did have to read the directions for that. But yeah, I might have skipped some of the other instructions. But one of the things that I saw, if you crank it up so that the blade is sticking as far out of the table as possible, there's an attachment that you can put on it, an anti-kickback contraption where it sits above the post, if you will, and then it has these reverse hooks, so as the wood slides through, if it were to come back, these things would lock into and I think there's some other designs out there like that. But yeah, as far as like losing fingers on that, it came with this giant, I'm like, what is this thing? Because I hadn't seen one before, but it's like basically a fancy push stick. And I hadn't used one before. I just use other pieces of wood, or I do this and then go around the other side of the table saw and pull it the rest of the way through if I'm getting my fingers too close to the blade. I don't like to. I like to like lean away from it too, in case if I'm gonna fall over, I want to fall away from the saw, not on the saw. So try to do that too.
Yeah, that's legit.
But there's a lot of little gizmos and gadgets on that thing, but it's not one of the ones where if I accidentally touch it, it's only gonna make me bleed instead of go to the ER. But yeah, I do have on my, what did you call it? Chop saw? I think I call them a miter saw, the one that comes down. Chop saw. But it also has the functionality where I can turn a little knob on the back, and it can come towards me as well. So maybe it's kind of a combo between chop saw and radial arm. So, but it does have a guard on it. But it's a big blade. It could take more than a finger off if it wanted to, I bet.
It's a perfect design of the worst two things together. It's the deadliest saw.
Well, and between the radial arm saw and Bennett, what you're just saying is, I think it's called like a sliding compound miter saw.
Yeah.
Is that the key difference and an important thing with the recall of the miters of the radial arm saws is that that's a worthy replacement for that tool. Yeah. Right, because it fixes the problem where you can slide it out and then cut the wood in the other direction, so you're actually pushing the blade back toward the back, and so that's a way more safe way of doing that operation ultimately.
Very much.
There's just some tools that are inherently dangerous that require the operator to know what the hell they're doing. Like my chainsaw, like. Ooh. if you're not careful, if you're not standing right, if you don't have the wood positioned correctly where you're cutting the right place, it'll bind up, it'll kick back. The worst thing I ever did was cut a slit in my pants about 6 inches long, but did not hit my leg. And that's when I went in the house and took a break. But again, I've been running chainsaws since I was in high school and stuff like that. But it's what I want to kind of get into is the legislation piece of it. And, there's a lot of safety things. Usually it's always in reaction to some kind of a horrible event. And also having something to be done, something they can do about it. Um, I think of low flow toilets, the EPA legislation came down and mandated low flow toilets, and I call them 3-flush toilets. Um, but again, that's, replacing existing things. And I think sometimes they don't always consider the repercussions of their decisions and that's going to do when they make them.
A good example of that, like staying in the vein of power tools, is a difference between some saws in America versus in Europe. Europe has regulations. I don't know if it's in all the entire EU or in certain places, but again, it's not the only time you cut yourself with a power tool isn't while it's running. Sometimes it's after you turn it off.
Right.
And anyone who's used a table saw in particular, like you turn it off and it spins for quite a while, and it would have no problem still, removing a finger for you in that state. And so in Europe, they regulated that chop saws and table saws need to have a brake on them. So after you turn them off, the blade needs to stop spinning within some time frame. I don't know, it's a few seconds. And that sounds really good in theory, but a important part of how those saws are designed is, the blade is easily replaced, and all you do is you take off an arbor nut, and the arbor nut is threads on in a way where when the saw is running, the only thing that could happen is it could tighten, right? The torque goes in the direction to tighten the nut, not loosen it.
Right.
But as soon as you add a brake, now you're putting torque into the system in the opposite direction, and now the nut can come off. And so with regular saw blades, that doesn't happen, but a common thing for people to put on a table saw is a dado stack, and there's a lot more mass. If you don't know what for anyone listening who doesn't know what a dado stack is, it's really just several saw blades just slapped on top of each other to make the blade extra wide. And so now you're adding a lot more mass to the equation, and it's much more likely for the arbor nut to come off, and then those blades will just fly off the end of the arbor. It's very unsafe. And so then what did they do? They said, oh, well, these brakes were a mistake, or we need to figure this out. No, they just made the manufacturers cut the length of the arbor off so that they're so short you can't fit a dado stack on them anymore.
Oh, there you go.
So in a roundabout way, then it kind of regulated away those dado stacks, because saying that you can't sell them isn't enough, because it would be so easy to just import them. So they tried to make them impractical to use instead. But
does it cost more? Does the saw cost more with those safety features?
I would imagine. I mean, the braking system is in addition to the way it would have been designed otherwise, but I can't imagine it's that expensive in that case. But
yeah,
but I'm also wagering that a lot of that targeted those regulations probably targeted industry. Whereas we're talking about like the flesh detecting saws, like the saw stop, though that design is targeting. I mean, they do sell to the prosumer and professional market. Like they actually do really good in that space. But I think that from a regulation standpoint, they're trying to target just regular consumers with that. The less skilled amongst us, and that is one of the big trade-offs, though. To your point, Kyle, is that I think the minimum cost it would add to your average saw is about $100, which for a very like entry level table saw about doubles the price of it.
Right.
And so
That's, for some people, that's a big bunch of money. That's
especially for a tool you may only use a handful of times, right? Like,
yeah.
To me, it would probably be well worth it, because I probably use my table saw every weekend, but I also have plenty of tools that I buy, use one time, and then put it in a drawer and never see it again.
Yeah,
those are the best tools. They were
Now,
awesome when you bought them.
Yeah, they did that one job.
Yep.
I will never ever use a bandsaw. Period. They just scare the hell out of me. That blade, it just never stops. It just keeps going. And then
Yep.
even when it stops, it's like razor sharp. And I've heard so many, but my dad has like 50 bandsaw stories, and you end up with guys that don't have thumbs. I'm just saying. And that's horrible, but yeah, I just haven't my brother sends me bandsaw videos because he knows I hate bandsaws that much.
You love them? Yeah.
Yeah. I fear them.
What about like our neck of the woods? Not the weekend warrior type stuff, but the day-to-day, when I think about some of the unintended consequences of laws that have been passed, Sarbanes-Oxley, right, is one that comes to mind, or just like 20 years ago, having a developer have access to production was no big deal, but now it's like, really, really not allowed.
Yeah, SOX was like, you have to know who's got access to what. There needs to be an owner for everything. Now there's SOX 2 compliance, which is all about security. And that's become a thing where it's like, it's expected. It's expected that you have that. I'm guessing it'll be part of insurance policies in the near future. Even if it's an industry that doesn't really like apply, maybe you never gather PII or credit card data or any of that stuff of other companies or people or whatever.
Right.
But there's still an expectation, maybe you don't use the stuff the way that, they would anticipate when they create those laws. But again, they just rubber stamp it and say everybody's got to have it. And small companies, little tiny ones, can't really afford a complete floor full of security people. And so, yeah, that stuff is like, makes you do a whole bunch of work. Insurance requirements make you do a whole bunch of work.
On the plus side, when was the last time you saw a social security number in the wild in a database?
Just mine, 225 dash. Yeah. No, but it's because everything's getting hashed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're really not getting stored anywhere that someone can hack into and grab them.
Credit cards not stored anywhere.
Right. Well, I keep some in my wallet, but
okay, but
I'm hiding.
Your Google Wallet or your Apple Wallet?
OSHA requirements can be very expensive. You look at the workspace safety kind of stuff. I was the IT guy for a company, and I had to have a hard hat, safety glasses, and steel-toed boots.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't work on the factory floor ever. Right. I had to have those. I didn't have to wear them, but I had to have them.
In my last gig, it was my unofficial job to convince people to not stand on office chairs to like change the light bulbs.
Oh my gosh!
So I even bought I had to buy a step stool out of my own pocket so that we could have one in the office so that people could use that instead. And so I just brandish it at them if I saw them standing in a chair.
I mean, Bennett, okay, so your story is really interesting. You bought a house that was built and owned by the Amish.
Mm-hmm.
And so it had like wood burning stove, no electricity, all that kind of stuff. And then you had to go in when you purchased it and you had to make it like up to code.
No, there's no code really where I live in a weird spot, but yeah, bringing things up to safety standards that I'm at least comfortable or more than comfortable with. There was a lot of things that were not quite done right. The biggest example that everybody is visibly able to see is we have a pretty big sized living room. In the middle of that living room, the subjoist of upstairs was going across, and that supports the joists that support the floor upstairs. And this big beam, there's actually two of them in the middle. They met in the middle of the living room floor, or above, and there's a giant cedar tree trunk in the middle of the living room that sits right underneath where these two big subjoists meet in the middle of the living room, and that tree trunk went down to another block of cedar that it sat on that spanned two joists. So I can't believe that there's many places where that's not up to code. Also, there was no glue, there was no nails, no screws, no nothing holding all of this together. It was just friction fit. It's all the weight from upstairs pushing down. So that was one undertaking that we did. So we replaced the cedar tree trunk with some steel and some giant 6x6 posts and a bunch of concrete in the ground beneath, because there was nothing under there supporting that. That tree trunk came down and sat on a piece of cedar which spanned two joists, and you could stick your hand underneath that piece of cedar once we had opened up the floor. So yeah, we swapped that out in an interesting way, and it is well supported right now. But getting to well supported and supporting that while taking that cedar tree trunk, we took that was a very risky thing, because if that didn't go well, the north half of the house would be in a pile. So we did it as best we could, and I don't think OSHA was involved, but
no,
we got it done, and we did it as safe as we could. But there was a Mike Rowe approach, which is safety third and progress first. Maybe I don't know what his first is, but we got it done and it worked. It's great. I don't know what to say. We succeeded.
It wasn't I thought
there were some legal things there where you had to do it.
Not that I know of. But
okay.
So same thing with like electrical. Amish don't have electrical, so we've wired the house. I've brought in a couple of master electricians, people that have that kind of skill set in their trade, and they're like, "Oh, you overdid this." Okay, so I might have paid a little too much for what I did, but at least I can sleep at night. I'm not worried about the wire going to the stove. We have an electric double oven, and I'm not worried about that wire shorting out or catching on fire because it's not big enough. We went with one size up from. They said you could go with this one or this bigger one. We went with the bigger one.
It wasn't 14.2.
It was not 14.2. No, I don't remember. It might have been like a 4.3 or a 6.3 wire.
Okay.
It was big. So
yeah.
I say the amazing part about that when you're talking about the structural part of it is as a woodworker, cedar is amazing when you need something to be rot resistant. I've never heard it used structurally before because it's one of the softest woods there is. So I can't believe that a piece of cedar was ever in any way involved with holding your house up.
Well,
it was
I will say my porch is being held up by 4x4 cedar.
But there's not much.
Oh yeah, but I suppose it's on the end in a way.
Yeah.
See now, pro tip: Bennett likely knows this. Cedar burns when it's wet.
Cedar is naturally fire resistant. Also, it's very hard to get. Wet, it smells really good, but it's hard to get burning.
Yeah.
I'm sure if the Amish had found any steel post trees, they would have cut those down and used those instead.
I've had the city tell me in a very nice way to clean my gutters, and It was a small forest. It had an ecosystem. It was kind of like Avatar. There was floating islands. But there's reasons for all of these codes and stuff like that. So,
right.
But you get hit with them, and then it's like, now you got to do a bunch of work.
And you might get hit with them when you were doing some different work, but you have to have it inspected.
Yeah, that's the fear is the inspector comes in to look at one thing and then finds 5 other things, and so on and so on.
That's a good thing though, isn't it? Like, oh shoot, my house could have burned down because I did the
money.
electrical wrong.
It costs me money.
that is the end result, Bennett. But in the moment, you're like, but we didn't touch that.
So
why do I have to replace my toilets because I built a deck?
Is safety going to price?
I guess I've gotten lucky because I usually during inspections I'll usually get at least one like, that's not right, and it's something unrelated. But like, if they just point it out and move on, it's never part of signing off on what I'm getting inspected.
Yeah, that happened with my stove. You got to have a shut off at the stove. Like, oh, okay. Get my plumber out there, who's now retired.
Oh, you had a gas stove. Good. I'm like, yeah. What kind of shut off do you need at a stove? Oh,
gas stove. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
But do you think? Have you seen cases where the safety features in litigation has kind of destroyed, like, the ability for people to, get in as a hobbyist or even people running a small business, where it just stops them in their tracks?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I know, because I know that's because a lot of theories get thrown around when they're talking about regulation, right? Like companies are very quick to cry foul because they often like the current state of things, and but yeah, I'm trying to think on the small end. I mean, I know that like tariffs right now have had a huge impact on small businesses because if you're having the manufacturing done overseas, it's much harder for companies to absorb tariffs. So I know that's a recent example.
I saw a nail company that was having trouble, and then it made the news. So, but they're a pound nail into wood nail manufacturer, and they were having challenges because of the steel tariffs that before that they weren't facing. But it's a lot of this stuff it's hard to walk the entire chain of everything, right? Like, you start at a hunk of iron in northern Minnesota and out comes a nail somewhere, right? But there's a lot of steps in between. And, there are times where the taconite doesn't get made into steel here. It gets sent somewhere to get made into steel because of regulations, cost, et cetera, et cetera. So it's hard to balance all of that.
So sometimes the impacts are non-intuitive, like as you mentioned, like the steel tariffs is, well, I went to get a quote for my roof, just a normal shingle, asphalt shingle roof, nothing special about it. But the manufacturers are on the cusp of raising prices, even because steel went up, and so they're going to have to raise the price of their steel roofs.
Steel roofs.
But they don't want to just do it to steel roofs, so they were going to just raise the prices on everything across the board to sort of balance that. And so they're going to artificially raise the price of shingles too, so they didn't have to raise the price of the steel roofs as much. So it still has an impact on me, who doesn't even have a steel roof.
Interesting.
Bennett's got a big cedar log. We could turn it into cedar shakes and do that.
Hey, Kyle, you know what those are made on? A bandsaw. by hand.
I'm shutting this down. That's it. Yeah, I think I've done some projects because of legislation happened. One of my customers had to do this review process, and this whole thing changed, and they couldn't react in time to go paperless immediately. And so this packet was like carried around from department to department to department. And at the end, before this final review happened, it was like it had coffee rings on it and like the edge caught on fire and so just taking that paperless. But that was, and they had to pay for that work. And, those process changes, cost. Um, I don't know if I don't know what the process is for reviewing like what happens next. Like like requiring body cam for police officers. Good idea. We're seeing a lot of really cool videos and stuff, but that was there was police departments that didn't have any, and all of a sudden you have to you got to figure out how you're going to store the data for that. That was like the big challenge.
Right.
The cameras were not that bad, but the data storage was a conundrum. And I knew a guy that got put on his plate, and it was like, this is your number one project to figure out. And he had a full dance card. Before that happened, he had a full dance card.
So that's not something where you can just run down and buy hard drives at Target and say that, or Best Buy and say, well, that's good enough. We've got it stored. Probably gonna be okay.
We need that footage. Go over to that box full of SD cards
and just
start put them in. Is this it? No.
Why is there a wedding on this one?
Did they realize the theft aspect when they forced catalytic converters to be put into cars?
No, because they didn't get stolen in 77 when they first, 1970s when they first came out. It took quite a while for that market to develop.
Who was the first person that struck gold and realized, hey, we can sell these materials and make money?
It's platinum.
They slowed cars down.
Joke's on them, because I watched somebody collect dirt from the side of the road and just refine it into platinum since it wears out of the converters and just falls onto the road, and you can just shovel it up.
Nice.
Really?
Yeah.
I have a shovel. Yeah, I kind of want to try that.
But then you need a blast furnace or whatever they're called to be able to heat it.
I got one. It's not OSHA compliant, but it'll be fine.
It's a Craftsman.
It's right under the cedar beam holding up your house.
Yeah.
I was going to say something about gas cans, but that sounded a lot cooler.
Oh.
But the gas cans, there was regulation, or I don't know if it's still in effect or whatnot, but they made the pour spouts where you had to like push it up against something.
Yeah.
It didn't break an industry. It didn't do any like massive damage, but I was like, I can't pour gas into several things now because I have to. Anyway, I don't know where the regulation on that, but gas is obviously very flammable.
Well, I think the idea was pure, right? Let's not let gas vapors escape into the atmosphere. Let's not let gas spill all over. Let's make this really good. The execution on the thing was so like, it worked great if you were pushing up against a car, but I don't have a gas can for my car because I go to a fuel pump for that. I only have it for my chainsaw and my other, lawnmower and things like that. And
yeah,
those are horrible places to have that technology.
I have a pour spout on one of my gas cans, and I take it off, and then I grab my funnel, and then I pour the gas in, and then it's basically the cap. It is unusable. It is so weird and gnarly on how it works, and it's just not. Then I have another one on another gas can that can't not spill. There's no way. You got to pull this handle, and it just spills everywhere. I don't know what the deal is, but I think some of these great intentions, it's like, how quickly can we fail fast on this stuff so that we're not,
Ooh.
creating a bigger problem because we didn't realize how difficult this was going to be and expensive and how poor it was going to work.
It takes a while. They're selling them on the internet now that are made of steel and have amazing, cool things. But yeah, I've got one that I really like, and the rest I just hate. But
yeah, I was gonna say on the front of gas versus, so there's some things have come out with like electric lawnmowers and electric whatnot. Touching on the chainsaw topic, because I'm an avid chainsawer myself too. There's electric chainsaws, which is a great idea for like, the somebody who's going to go out and trim a couple branches down off their tree because it's, hanging over where they want to mow or it's touching the house or whatever.
That's me.
That's you. So
because I was gifted an electric chainsaw when at that moment I was like, this is dumb. Why did you buy it for me? And now
they're great.
But then not having to gas it up and then like drain it and stuff every time I use it. Like I've owned it for I think 10 years. I've only charged the battery on it once because it's because my use case is exactly what you described, where I'm trying to dig out a bush and I run into a root or something where the lopper can't quite. It's just a little too big. So I run it this long, and it's done. And I put it away.
Yeah.
Bennett, I'm guessing you run yours a little bit longer than that.
I do. I have a Husqvarna 455 Rancher is my like go-to, but I do have a smaller saw. But interesting though.
Mine came from Harbor Freight.
Yeah. The electric. So here's a question on the electric one. There's a convenience factor, like you just described, completely. Mm-hmm. However, they are far more dangerous, and the reason why is so I wear the chaps when I'm out doing stuff and whatnot.
Good on you.
Well, I have a helmet. I have because I'm out there doing the stuff, and I don't want to get branches dropping.
I say that because like Kyle, I have other people I know who have cut their legs with chainsaws, and then somehow still didn't go get chaps afterwards.
Yeah, but so what's in the chaps? The chaps have this like Kevlar stringy material that actually gets into the chain and gunks it up and stops it, but it will stop a gas-powered chainsaw. It will not stop an electric chainsaw.
Really?
Because there's a continuous drive, continuous pull on that chain from that electric engine compared to a gas engine, which is piston based, and there's pulses of power, and so it will choke out the power at a lower power time frame with all that Kevlar mesh getting in there. And so like there's not something you would think about on that. So I mean, if you're wearing chaps, which you would have to be in the first place, but if you're wearing chaps, then an electric chainsaw is more dangerous than a gas-powered chainsaw from that perspective. If it's, the same size of bar and chain, things being equal. Yeah. But the person that's going to do it a weekend or two a year, maybe, or I don't know how many times, but that's an actually more dangerous contraption set up that way than a gas-powered one, even though the gas-powered ones, we'll say noisier and maybe more boisterous, looks scarier. But yeah, it's an interesting, like, I don't know how many people know that,
and I'm guessing you have a certain sense of invincibility when you have the chaps on, right? You're like, I can be a little more reckless than I would otherwise because the chaps will stop me from getting caught, right?
I'll admit I have that sensation. Yeah, if I'm wearing earmuffs and a respirator and safety goggles, it's all this stuff that's on my head, but somehow I feel completely invincible. Like that's gonna stop a bullet. Like nothing could possibly harm me. I'm wearing all of the PPE that I own at the same time. So I understand what you mean.
But I will say, Bennett, that the electric chainsaw that I have runs 25 minutes cutting through oak, and it only took me 5 charges to cut through an oak tree. So it was and it's a period of days because I, at the end of work, I will cut this much wood, and where a gas one just goes. But my 20-year-old chainsaw is hitting its end of life, and I might replace it with a different electric one that I have more batteries that I can, train into the chainsaw instead of having a single battery.
Yeah.
But it's a challenge.
To Bennett's point, there are some things that are deceptive, because my like growing up, the rule for me was if it's like a tool you plug into the wall, like if you take like a drill as an example,
right,
it has an incredible amount of torque. So it's classic injury of the drill is it catches on something and then the handle whips around and like hits you in the arm, or it could break your wrist.
Right.
But so battery powered stuff was never that powerful. But we've kind of come a long ways there. Where I 10 years ago, someone taught me about those like impact drivers, and those are torque limited, right? Because they'll impact at a certain torque.
Right.
So you start to learn that where you just go full tilt on that thing, and it's never going to hurt you. But then I bought a brushless drill. It's battery powered, new battery system. And I unfortunately I didn't get hurt, but I was like taken aback at how much torque those things have despite being battery powered. And I just didn't even think about it when I started using it. Because I do think about that with other tools. I have a very low powered circular saw where if I'm gonna do I'm just trying to chop something up, like do demolition, I'll use that specifically because it will just it only has so much torque before it cuts off. Like it has it's not even a safety thing. It just it only can put out so much torque, which is far beyond what I can wrangle. And so if it catches on something like a nail or something, it's not going to do anything dangerous like kick. It'll just shut off.
Yeah.
But using a more powerful tool, it would you could fly out of your hands and do some damage if you're not aware of it.
Well, here's something counterintuitive, I think, for some the dull blades are less safe than sharp blades.
Right. And almost
a
every
dull knife in the kitchen. Yeah. Because you're wrenching on it more. It's more difficult. You can, one slip with a lightning sharp bandsaw blade and it's no longer your rule of thumb is on the floor. But it's generally, I think, if you maintain your equipment and keep the blade sharp and get safety equipment. I got a cutoff tool, one of those angle grinder things, and I watched a video entitled "This is why you wear, face shields when you use this tool," and it was about 2 inches through a plexiglass face shield.
Okay.
I spent some money on my face shield. It's pretty cool and it's pretty thick because I'm like, I don't want to get, hit in the face by one of those things.
I see that frequently with like angle grinders, like when you use as a cutting wheel. Those wheels can shatter and they'll go through safety glasses and shields and stuff pretty easily.
Yeah.
They actually expire. They have a date stamped on them, and if you just throw a pile of them in a drawer and then you use them periodically over the next 6 years, they might work, but they have an expiration date on them, so don't stock up unless you're gonna do a big project.
Interesting.
We're winding down. I think we're getting into the final comment territory. Parting thoughts. I'll go first. I usually go last. Know the regulations, know how to use it, know the danger, like the expiration date. Like, I didn't know that. And that's something good to know. Knowing my dad's radial arm saw is a death trap. I'll never use it. You kind of have to do your due diligence and you have to read up and learn about it. And YouTube is a great place, I think, to do all that. There's so many videos about everything out there.
Yeah, YouTube is also a great place to learn how to use your power tools incorrectly. I'll say.
Yes.
No, it's the way to learn the lesson without actually experiencing the lesson.
No, I don't even mean from watching like injury videos. I just say like people who are making informational content, and then they're just demonstrating the tool incorrectly. It's which is unfortunate, but I don't know what you can do to stop that, unfortunately.
Yeah. I guess you have to like do your due diligence about how you're going to do your due diligence.
Yeah,
Bennett, any parting thoughts?
Trusted sources are, I think, key there, right? Like if it's on Ask This Old House, I'll trust it sooner than some lady who just learned how to use power tools last week and quit her day job, kind of a channel. Anyway, sorry, Bennett.
Yeah, I'll say probably a lot of the videos that are online that we all enjoy or don't enjoy watching of accidents happening is probably also a line similar to software. You got to use the right tool for the job. Right. Don't try to use an angle grinder to hammer in a nail because it's not gonna be great. So use the right tool for the job and don't no whoops-a-daisies that way.
Peter,
I think as I get older, I try to read the paper all the way through at least once. It does not take that long. There's usually no surprises, but at least do it once.
It's only that thick because it's in 47 languages.
And most of the warnings are things that people have done, and they don't want you to do it too.
Yeah. Learn from the mistakes of others.
I have learned that if you read the manual for your car, there's usually like a half dozen features you wouldn't have known about otherwise. Honestly,
isn't that weird? Yeah.
I drove my truck for a year and a half before I realized how auto start works. I had to read the manual. It was like I had to find the manual. It's always in the glove compartment.
Always there.
Right.
Yeah.
And then mine is, so if we can go all the way full circle to where we started, so in prepping for this podcast, I wanted to get my facts straight. So I was looking at the SawStop situation, and there is a conclusion to the story. That's hot off the press here. Is so for anyone listening in the future, this was recorded in 2025. Without making it political, the current president's administration fired everybody on the Consumer Protection Safety Commission board, except for one person, which was upheld by law, and that one person, now acting unilaterally, withdrew all of the 20 years of work that they had done on the safety saw stuff. So the flush detecting saws just wiped it all clean. So now it's a non-issue. It doesn't exist anymore. Or that regulation will never exist now, it seems like.
Well, you can still buy it from that one company, but
you can. I'm just saying like that. Yeah, there. Yeah. It seemed like it was going to happen for sure, and so yeah, I was a bit surprised to learn that it is now for sure not going to happen, as of only a few weeks ago.
Wow.
My advice is you don't have to be forced into it to do it. Be safe and follow the rules. Kids.
Yeah, it's worth it, and especially once those of us on this podcast know when you reach a certain age, when you get injured, now it's just permanent. So
yeah,
prevention is worth everything.
There you go.
Everybody in my family has a oddly bent finger. Yeah, because
is there a drawer or door in your house?
We've all dislocated a finger, and none of us healed it right. We all took my dad's advice. Just tape it to the next one. That's all the doctor's going to do. Just tape it to the finger next to it. So beware bad advice.
Yep. My daughter has a legitimate medical issue that were taken to doctors to remedy. And my dad's advice was, she'll just grow out of it. Thanks, Dad.
Rub some dirt on it, walk it off. All right. Thanks for being here, gentlemen. Eric, Peter, Bennett. It was great talking about this stuff. I love it. And with that, I think we can say goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Adios.
Goodbye.
Solution Design Group is a digital product consultancy in Minneapolis. Check us out on the web at solutiondesign.com or look for us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram at Solution Design Group.